Hey everybody, and welcome back to another max velocity weather forecast. And in today's forecast, we'll be breaking down a severe weather outbreak that'll be impacting the United States today. That'll bring the risk for significant damaging winds, large to very large hail, and a few tornadoes, which a tornado could even be strong. I'll give you the latest breakdown on everything that you need to know in this forecast, but let's first begin with what's happening across the United States today. And we'll first begin with parts of the Central Plains and back through the Ohio Valley, and there's a ton of storm activity already ongoing today. Notice that convection that's located back down Missouri, Arkansas, near Kentucky and Tennessee. This is one of two rounds of severe weather that we will see today that'll bring the risk of all modes of severe weather. And this first round, not nearly as significant, but it will play a factor into what we will see today in terms of that severe weather threat on that second round of severe weather, which the second round of severe weather will be much worse than what we're at least forecasting for that first round that's currently ongoing. But there are some damaging winds associated with this area, heavy rain, and definitely a little bit of lightning. Might be a brief tornado overall for the next few hours, but overall that threat is low. That tornado risk, though, will increase as we go into the evening hours. And then back up into Canada, we do have a low pressure system that's been spinning up there for a little while now, and this will actually bring another risk for severe weather for parts of the upper Midwest today, with maybe some isolated damaging winds and also some frequent lightning being possible out of a few storms, but nothing too out of the ordinary. We're not looking at a severe weather outbreak by any means up there today, but we're definitely more concerned about what's going to be happening in the Mississippi Valley later today. Back over in the West Coast, not a whole lot of activity here either. It's pretty dry, unfortunately. It's been very hot as well, and that's not really changing over the next 7 days. It's going to continue to stay very hot over there for the foreseeable future. Now let's talk more about the severe weather potential for today, as we do likely have a severe weather outbreak imminent. Now this is going to be a very tricky setup because of multiple variables, so there's a lot of things that could happen and things that might not happen out of this event. But as of right now, the Storm Prediction Center has issued an enhanced risk of severe weather. This does include a very large area from northeast Oklahoma back through Tennessee, northern Mississippi, Alabama, parts of southwest Kentucky, and as well as southern Missouri. And we still have to monitor the threat of severe weather and that marginal threat that goes all the way back up into Indiana, Illinois, back into parts of Texas, and even down into the panhandle of Florida. Now, the main concern for today will be the threat of damaging winds. This is almost a guarantee, as a threat at least, to be scattered to perhaps numerous. So damaging winds almost seems likely out of any storms that will end up developing out back to the west, closer to areas like Missouri and as well as Arkansas. That is where we'll be watching for more of an increased risk of damaging winds. The damaging wind threat could go as high as 80 to 85 miles per hour as well. So definitely make sure you're taking the proper precautions today, because there will definitely be a threat for some significant damaging winds. The large hail threat is pretty much in the same boat as the damaging wind threat in terms of my confidence level. I have a pretty high confidence that we'll at least see some large hail, perhaps even very large hail out of some of these storms this evening, and that will primarily occur back over in parts of southern Missouri, northeast Oklahoma, and back through parts of northern Arkansas. There will be a threat of still some large to very large hail even back through the Mississippi Valley and parts of Tennessee, northern Alabama, and northern Tennessee. Now, where things get a lot more hairy is the tornado risk today. As of right now, the Storm Prediction Center has a 10% hatched area for tornadoes today. What that means is that there could be a strong or even long track tornado in parts of southern Missouri or northern Arkansas. Outside of there, we still have increased tornado probabilities with a medium risk of tornadoes back from western Tennessee and southwest Kentucky into northern Arkansas and southern Missouri, and then a 5% probability that's fairly large, indicating at least a low to medium threat of tornadoes from northeast Oklahoma back into northern Alabama and Mississippi. Now, I say this is a hairy tornado risk because it really depends on how quickly this convection that we're seeing this morning moves out, because that'll determine whether we see more of a linear line of storms, which would be a lesser tornado risk, or if we see discrete supercells, which would definitely increase that tornado risk, and we could have a tornado outbreak in that instance. Again, it has a lot to do with what we see throughout the next few hours in terms of the convection and how fast it moves out, because how stable the atmosphere is and how unstable it is will really be a critical part of this entire thing. But I want you to make sure you have a tornado action plan in place if you're anywhere in any of these tornado probabilities today, and also have multiple ways to receive alerts. I might go live for this. It's a 50-50. It really depends on how significant this tornado risk does get, so make sure you stay tuned. Have multiple ways to receive alerts, and please do not rely on a YouTube live stream by any means. Make sure you have multiple ways to receive alerts outside of that, whether that's your phone, a weather radio, etc. There are plenty of ways to be alert for these storms today. Now, in terms of the tornado parameter, this is a big thing. I wanted to mention this because it really has a lot to do with what's going to happen today. The shear will be very strong. It's a very unseasonable type of event that we're going to be seeing today. Look at these tornado parameter values right on the leading edge where these storms will be. Upwards of 4 to 5. That is a pretty medium tornado threat, if not even a little bit higher than that. So we have very increased tornado parameter values for this time of the year, which means that tornado risk will be increased. But again, how that gets maximized is if we have discrete supercells. That's a big play into today, so we'll be watching that threat very closely. Now, in terms of the timing for today, storms will be continuing to go on for the morning into the early afternoon. This is around 3 o'clock this afternoon. Notice all the storms that we still have ongoing, and this is the reason why the tornado risk might not be nearly as bad as what it could be, is because of how much convection will be out there. But if it clears out quicker than this, then we could definitely have a tornado outbreak across parts of southern Missouri and as well as northern Arkansas. Notice by around 6, 7 o'clock tonight, we have a line of storms beginning to develop, and if any discrete supercells end up developing out of this, meaning maybe this storm or even something out in front of it, I would definitely, again, maximize that tornado risk today. Eventually, as we go throughout the mid to late evening hours, that pushes out to the south and east, and again, this will turn into a line of storms, so damaging winds will definitely be a much greater concern as this all moves to the east-southeast. Eventually, getting closer to midnight, those storms are moving through central Tennessee, as well as northern Alabama and Mississippi, and into the overnight damaging winds will continue before that all starts to weaken out. And now let's talk a little bit more about the severe weather potential as we head into Thursday and Friday, which let's first begin with tossing trampolines on tall trees Thursday. As of right now, there is a couple of areas to watch for, one of which will be back over in the mid-Atlantic. That'll be from the remnants of what we'll see later today. Potential for damaging winds, large hail, maybe an isolated tornado is also going to be possible. Small marginal risk back up in southeast New England as well near Cape Cod, and then another marginal threat back up in parts of the northern plains. Again, the main concern in this area back up on the northern plains will be the threat of just some isolated damaging winds, maybe a little bit of isolated large hail. Make sure you're taking the proper precautions there. Now, the damaging wind threat, it's pretty much the same as the current risks of severe weather. That damaging wind threat, I wouldn't rule out it increases over on the East Coast, but overall, that'll be the main concern over there. Will be widely scattered, maybe some scattered damaging winds. Tornado risk as well for tomorrow. It's on the low side of things. We have a low threat back up in southeast New England, and as well as another small low threat back through parts of North Carolina, South Carolina, and as well as eastern Georgia. So make sure you're staying weather aware there. And one of the things that we have to watch for going into Friday, which is going to be Flying Fences Friday, is our risk for severe weather in the Midwest. And we're going to actually see an intensifying low-level jet over there once we go into late Friday. And this could help to increase maybe that tornado risk a little bit as we go into Friday evening. So we'll have to watch that closely. Low pressure system center back up here to the north. So some stronger winds aloft could actually end up producing maybe a little bit more of an increased risk of tornadoes. But as of right now, we do have a slight risk of severe weather in parts of the Midwest. Storm Prediction Center has that slight risk in southern Wisconsin, northern and western Illinois, southeast Iowa, and northeast Missouri. And then that marginal threat goes through Michigan and back into Kansas. As of right now, the main concerns are damaging winds and large hail, but there might be at least a couple tornadoes as we go into Friday. Definitely make sure you're monitoring the weather. Damaging winds, large hail will definitely be the main concerns out of this, but there will at least again be that chance for a couple tornadoes. Now, in terms of the timing, it's very early to talk about this, but I'm at least going to give you an idea of what will happen during the afternoon. That's the furthest outlet we can go currently. As of right now, storms expected to probably fire off right around 2 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. There'll be some storm activity that's back over in Michigan and maybe eastern Wisconsin, eastern Illinois, but this is more conditional, so it might or might not happen. But the better chance of storms firing off would be back up in Minnesota, and that's where we could see maybe an MCS develop, which would be more of damaging winds. So we'll be talking about more on this in our next forecast. Make sure you stay tuned. Again, we'll be breaking this down, and there's a good chance that we'll be going live for this as well. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel, and as well as make sure you click the bell icon so you're notified if and when we do go live. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure to hit the like button down below and subscribe if you've not already.